round one in day one of action. These players are looking to get started in and be in a winning position moving forward. Remember, they have to have a 6-2-1 record or better to at least day two. Obviously, you want to ideally have a much better record than that, but that's the bottom line. That's as bad a record as you can have if you want to have any type of hope of moving into day two.
Yeah, got to stay alive in the tournament, and 1-0 is definitely the way that you start that.
And with so many players here this weekend, you have to believe that the pressure is on for all of these major names in the game. You know, you're playing against so many local players, you really don't want to take an early loss.
Dene does have that North American hat, so maybe he has done a little traveling himself. So this might not be his first rodeo. I'm sure that he's got something for us prepared.
I would not be surprised. So now these players are rolling to see who goes first. I am going to try to get a decent idea of what these players are playing. We see actually, okay, so we're going to be seeing a couple of different decks at least, and I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to see that we're going to be seeing maybe a little bit of old and a little bit of new spice coming in.
Yeah, we'll see if the old guard and the new guard, how that works out.
All right, so remember, these players are setting up. They're now about to get their prizes down, which is going to give us a little bit of an idea of what these players are going to be playing. Cannot wait to see what their prizes are. Cannot wait to see what kind of decks these players are shuffling up and dealing this entire weekend. Remember, Daniel Altavilla right there in the green shirt. We just had a good look at him. He is our reigning defending champion, when having won the Latin American International Championships last year.
Yep.
And here we go, and we see a Mewtwo, and we see a Naganadel GX. So, a couple of welders,
good,
man.
bud.
Yeah, a couple of welders, and of course the Mewtwo and Mew. These are not some great prizes, but they do tell us that that's exactly what we're going to be seeing out of
Here
dinner.
we go.
And now, there we go. There's the spice we were just talking about.
Dusk Stones.
Yeah. Yeah, the prizes are not great, but that does tell us what we're going to be seeing out of this matchup. Kyle, take it away.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'll leave that portion until Danny at least starts his turn. Maybe we can start to progress through there. But we did get to see the Naganadel and Guzzlord tag team Pokemon.
Yeah, I did not expect to see Naganadel versus Naganadel in
Not
round
in that
one.
sense, yeah.
And if you would have told me, that I was going to be seeing Naganadel versus Naganadel, I definitely would not have expected this matchup to be it.
Right.
Now these players are deciding who's going first. I think we're just about ready for them to begin. So I cannot wait to see these two decks in action. Like we said, we've had Mewtwo and Mew tagged, and we've seen that deck in action at the World Championships where it had kind of its breakout performance, and it really delivered. I think that's the easiest way to say it. Mewtwo and Mew tag team was just dominant throughout that entire tournament with that perfection deck.
Yeah.
It's such an apt name for that deck. It's just got so many different ways to attack you, so many different ways to just start taking prize after prize, and its perfection ability is just used to, about as optimally as you can use it at this point. There's so many powerful attacks that you have access to in that from that one Pokemon. However, we thought that Mewtwo and Mew was going to be kind of, having its back against the wall this weekend. We looked at Mimikyu. We saw how there was an actual counter card printed to this Mewtwo and Mew tag team. And a lot of players were hesitant to play the deck, or at least they said they were hesitant to play the deck. We're going to be finding out throughout the weekend if that ended up being the case, and if this Mewtwo and Mew is going to be kind of an anomaly throughout the weekend, or if other players decided to just go with perfection and the raw power that it brings, and see if that's still going to be able to power through the potential Mimikyus that they're going to have to face.
Yeah, we've seen some players using the Stealthy Hood as a way around that Mimikyu. Maybe that gives them the confidence that they need to continue playing the perfection deck. I believe we do see one from Dene, but maybe he just really doesn't think Malamar is going to be as prominent as we've all assumed it would be.
All right, so we do have these players now setting up their, well, at least we have Denner here setting up his first turn of the game. He is finding these two Mewtwo and Mews. One of them is the active Pokemon. The other one now potentially going to be hitting the bench thanks to this tag call, this new card, this new item card out of this Cosmic Eclipse expansion. You see how it not only gets Pokemon, but it can also get supporter cards now too. It's just such a powerful item card, and it just allows these decks to kind of just flow much better than they've ever flowed before.
Yeah. Grabbing that Cynthia and Caitlyn as well. Of course, he'd like to probably find a welder off of this Pokegear that's coming up. I'm not sure if he was able to check through as diligently as he wanted to. Maybe he's going to see that these welders are prized. He has 2 prized, so finding one in the top 7 here could be really tricky.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for him to find the ideal supporter. Of course, it's going to be welder if he does find it. Only has access to 2 of them, though he doesn't quite know that and does not find it. I don't believe he found any supporter.
I think I see Guzma. But, yeah, I don't even
know.
Yeah,
he might have found it. Doesn't seem like it, though. So, yeah, it looks like he missed the entire supporter. Did not find anything out of that Pokegear. And with that Giant Hearth in play, he may be considering using it, that Stadium card, in order to find himself a couple of Fire Energies. But it seems like this start is not going the way he would have liked on this first turn of the game for him.
So we'll see what he decides to go with here. He does have a Cherish Ball in hand as well, so possibly just could be going for the Dene very quickly.
Yeah, he could be going for a Dedenne. He definitely seems to be looking for more options. His hand just doesn't seem to be helping him as much as he would like. However, at the same time, it looks like he's just going for Cynthia and Caitlyn instead. And now potentially playing a Draw Energy to, well...
He's got the Weakness card.
Yeah, the Weakness card, sorry. Getting excited with these new cards coming out of Cosmic Eclipse. Just give me more. But, yeah, so that's not exactly what I would consider to be an optimal start. Yeah. Can we put it that way?
He went very, very slowly. He has other cards that he could have played, but he doesn't want to lose those resources. And maybe he just knows that the Welder is going to be a really difficult card for him to find, so he's just going to play the slower approach and hopefully get there.
I mean, maybe at this point he does have information at this as to how much of an uphill battle he's going to be facing when it comes to getting energy in play. Remember, Welder is not only your draw power, but it's also your energy acceleration. It just does so much for you. A Welder, of course, attaches up to 2 Fire Energies from your hand onto your Pokemon and allows you to draw 3 cards. So it just does everything, really. And now we see Tag Call being played by Daniel. And, yeah, we're going to have a lot of readers throughout the weekend. Let's put it that way.
Denny's like, I know what that does.
Naganadel and Guzzlord Tag Team GX. Not a card that I would have expected coming into this weekend. Honestly, I'm pretty sure it flew under the radar for many players. And funny little story. I got here, and one of the first texts I got from another player was, hey, do you have access to card? And I was like,
why would I have those?
I didn't bring those. And then he's like, oh, okay, well, thanks anyways, bye. Little did I know that this deck would end up being the reason why those cards were being asked. So I'm just excited to see how the deck does flow. Of course, we get to see a couple of these GX Pokemon on the bench. And really, Kyle, how do you think this deck is going to what kind of a play pattern are we going to be seeing out of the players playing this deck?
So generally they're looking to use the Miss Magus and use the ability so they can draw all these cards and also take these prizes. They want to put themselves in range for Beast Ring so that they can start to accelerate some energy cards. Also, they'll have access to a better use of a reset stamp so that they can get their opponent on a low hand and really start getting aggressive with this Naganadel and Guzzlord GX tag team. Of course, they could use Jet Pierce in combination with cards like Beast Ringer so that you could take big knockouts, and then, of course, your GX attack will clean up games. So there's some ways that this deck can move very quickly. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see that from Danny this time around, just because he doesn't have access to Duststone with 2 in the prize card. So he's going to have to play a bit slower, and yeah, he just attached energy and passed, and it's going to see if Danny ever gets that Welder so he can start moving as well.
So, I mean, at this point, it seems like Daniel's strategy is kind of out in the open, right? Like, he's got pretty much every Pokemon that he wants to have in play, with the exception of, like, for example, Miss Magius. But does this change Dene's game plan at all? Does this make Dene kind of, like, change whatever strategy he may have had cooking up at the end of his first turn?
I mean, he saw Misdreavus and has no idea what his opponent is on. He could have thought that it was going to be Trevenant and Dusknoir tag team. So he's thinking that weakness guard is going to be the most important thing that he has available to him. So I think a lot has changed since this turn has started. I just don't know what Danny's going to be able to do about it. His hand really hasn't helped him out here. So, of course, he would like to get some energies in the discard pile, perhaps start using Turbo Drive from his Sagaleo. But other than that, I don't know what else he's doing.
Sure. And the other thing is, I'm not quite sure how powerful Daniel's hand can be, or is right now, but I do know how powerful it can be. And if he has everything he needs access to, then we may be seeing just a blowout turn out of Daniel here if he finds the correct sequence of cards here.
Yep.
That's really the big question coming into this second turn here for Daniel Altavilla. Now, of course, we see the first Mismagius hit play. Remember, it's not going to be in play for long. That's probably the best way to describe this deck.
Mismagius does not like to play Pokemon. It likes to go back into the discard pile and watch from the side.
Yeah, the Mismagius does not believe that it belongs on the on the field. It believes that it's best used in the discard pile, and of course, Guzzlord doesn't disagree. At this point, really, what you want to do if you're Daniel, you want to kind of get it into your discard pile. You want to have your opponent go down to say less prizes. You kind of want to play a much quicker game than people are used to playing, and you kind of want to take advantage of that kind of a setup.
Yeah, we'll never see Danny play another Pokemon from this point forward. He's going to get his opponent down to 4 prize cards, and then from that point, he's going to make you work through 2 tag team Pokemon so that it has to be an 8 prize game.
So here's the big question: does he have the B strings? Does he have these cards available to him?
I think I just saw one. Yeah.
To kind of go off. That's the big question here out of Danny. Will he have a? There it is. There's that first B string. That B string is going to allow him to start powering up this big Guzzlord and start attacking right away. That's really the power of Danny's deck here. He wants to take advantage of putting his opponent down to 4 prizes extremely fast. Now, the big question is, there's that second one. That was going to be the other question. Will he be able to keep accelerating? Will he be able to have additional Pokemon available to him to potentially keep the pressure coming? And the question has been answered right away, as now we see so many energy hit play here for Danny Altavilla.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so he's going to bring this very low. He's going to go with this aggressive approach, get another Mismagius, but this brings Danny down to 3 prize cards, so that now just 1 tag team knockout would be enough. Potentially he needs a few more cards to get himself in a good position. Maybe he wants to use this ability, bring Danny down to 3 prizes, and then use a reset stamp. That reset stamp would be able to help him out with Dene not getting any of the cards that he needs access to, and then hopefully these Naganadel and Guzzler will be able to just run through Mewtwo's that aren't really charged up. They weren't able to find Welders.
So now we're seeing the power of Danny's deck. We're seeing the power of Danny's deck in action, but you're absolutely right. That Mismagius coming into play really kind of confuses me. I expected Danny to kind of force his opponent to play an 8 prize game, so to speak. But instead, it looks like we may just be playing a 6 prize game out of Danny here.
So he's going to go grab Mallow and Lana. This is going to help him with combating the amount of damage that he's dealing with throughout the rest of the game. He's going to try to keep this big hand for as long as possible. And I guess at this point, he's really just looking for reset stamp. He's given his opponent a lot of cards, and this is not a spot you want to be in.
So now, Dene looking at this just dominant board out of Danny, honestly, really. Like, if you've never faced this deck before, you can't help but be surprised, right? Like, I think I just saw a B-String, by the way. I think I just saw the 3rd B-String.
Yeah, he has another.
So there it is. There's a 3rd B-String. We're now going to be seeing 6 energy come into play from Danny right away. Like, you have to feel like you made a great deck choice if you're doing this round 1.
I mean, we haven't seen reset stamp yet. He has multiple order pads to help him find this card at the right point. I mean, it's such a weird spot because Dene really hasn't done much, but he has a huge hand. You can't feel comfortable looking at a hand that big, but putting your opponent down to 3 would probably feel pretty great. But yeah, it looks like he's gonna hold on to the Mismagius. He wants to keep that as maybe a backup plan. He knows that most decks are playing Great Catcher now, so the only way this Pokemon would be knocked out is perhaps a Naganadel Snipe in future turns. But if he can avoid that, he's in a pretty good spot.
So now Danny passes the turnover to Dene. Well, by passes the turnover, I mean deals a
Hits
buttload
him
of
in the
damage.
face.
Yeah. And now Dene gets to take another turn. I mean, honestly, Danny's turn took something like 5 minutes there. It was such a long turn, but it just was full of so many actions. So now, if you're Dene, first of all, you're wondering what happened. You're wondering exactly how you ended up in this position to begin with. However, you kind of have to reset yourself, right? You kind of have to figure out how you can proceed from here and see if there's anything you can do about this onslaught of Guzzlords that's just coming your way. And I'm not sure if he has an answer to it yet or whatnot, but I do believe that, if any deck's going to have that, it's going to be Perfection. It's going to be a deck that has access to like 15 different attacks.
So Dene did just use that Giant Hearth. He got himself a few more energy cards into his hand, really looking to thin out so that Pokegear has a little better success rate. He would like for the Pokegear to hit the Welder so that maybe he can get something accelerated here. Get one big attack off potentially.
Okay, so now, what Pokemon is Danny going to be looking for to put in his discard pile?
I'm sure he'd love to see that Charizard GX that does 300 damage for his GX attack. That'd be huge. It'd be a big knockout here if he was able to find Welder to go with it. But, man, he just doesn't have that. Yeah, I don't think he has access to very much. He might just be looking to accelerate some energies with Solgaleo, and hopefully this second Mewtwo would be able to put the grunt of the work in.
Would something like Mallow and Lana be able to help you out in this position if you're Dene?
Well, your opponent's hitting for 210, so healing off that amount of damage, I don't think that would be very beneficial.
Now.
Yeah.
So.
And he knows that his opponent has Mallow Lana as well, so hitting for 120 feels really bad.
This may be a quick game one, honestly, and I'm really kind of flabbergasted at this deck. Like, I had heard rumblings of something along these lines, but I had never seen it in action. When we're talking about Mismagius with Guzzlord, these are not Pokemon that you really expect to be coming at the coming into the international championships. I know that there has been a little bit of, I don't want to call it hype because I think that's probably the wrong use of the word, but there's been some talk of this deck potentially coming up, but nobody really gave it the credit that it deserved. And this is another big reason why it deserves the credit that it does. You have access to so many different little combinations of cards that are just usually reserved for decks like Pidgeotto, for example.
Right. So when you put yourself in a position where you're giving your opponent prize cards, Lieutenant Surge is going to be so helpful for you using multiple supporter cards. But that's the beauty of this deck. You give yourself so many supporter cards to use that you're always going to be in a spot that you feel favorable. You're going to have consistency always working for you. You have Pokemon that give you cards, and you have so many plays that just intertwine with each other that are so helpful. Starting off with that Surge into the Bill, also gets to use this third supporter now because he is behind. Mallow Lana is going to take the damage off.
How about that one, Kyle? Really, how does that feel if you're Dene? If you're in Dene's shoes and you see this happen to you?
He knew it was happening. He just couldn't stop it. And there is the Beastbringer as well, taking 1, 2, 3, 4.
Prizes. Yeah, well, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's downright okay.
So now we see Danny go from being down 2 prizes to being up 2 prizes, and we're seeing that just one turn later. Literally one turn later, that's the outcome that we have.
He's in the most beautiful spot. His opponent is not set up. He has 2 full Pokemon that are ready to play. And if anything weird happens with a reset stamp, he has that backup in the Mismagius to just fill back up and attack again. So he's got everything going for him right here. Dene is going to make him, of course, run through all those options with that reset stamp play, hopefully putting Daniel down to 2 cards that are unplayable. But he does have a lot of supporters in this deck.
Yeah, we got a peek at Dene's hand right there, and we got to see that really it was full of nothing. He's just missing that welder engine so bad, and that's really kind of what Perfection relies on in a sense.
This is when the game gets scary. Dene does not want to play to Dene because now his opponent just needs Great Catcher to win the game. He's down to 2 cards, so if any of these are Great Catcher, potentially Order Pad into a Great Catcher, he can just lock this game out on knocking out the Dedenne.
All right, so Dene looking to potentially extend this first game. Dene looking to kind of honestly just come back out of nowhere, really. He seems to just have his back against the wall, and his deck is not providing him with the resources he needs. I think at this point he's taking a look and realizing that the welders aren't coming because they're not there.
Yeah, if a knockout happens on this turn, then that means that Danny no longer has access to using them as mages. I feel like that's the only way that Danny is able to stay in this game here.
We're going to see if Dene agrees with us. Will he continue to play this game out, or will we be seeing the cards come up? Really has not had access to much of anything. I'm not sure if, well, has he had Reset Stamp in his hand?
Yeah, he played the Reset Stamp on Danny.
So now we're seeing that Giant Hearth find him some energies, or unenergy, really. It seems to be the last one left in his deck.
Mm-hmm.
So these seem to be the last of his resources, despite having quite a large deck left. And he's just, we saw one player get everything going the way he'd like, and then we saw another player kind of struggle because of his prizes. That's really kind of been the story of this first game.
Danny's deck can go a lot faster than it did. It can do this earlier, but yeah, I guess from that standpoint, you're correct.
That's really scary.
In comparison to how slow Dene's setup has been, yes.
And there it is. The cards do get scooped up, but we do see Dene scoop up his cards, and Danny Altavilla will be winning this first game. Has only one more game win to go before he gets to start off at 1-0. Remember, he is the defending champion, and we're now seeing why, really.
Yeah, this is very impressive from him. He's playing a deck that's relatively unknown, but he seems to know how to pilot this list and seems very comfortable in these matchups. I'm certain that going into this, he's got a lot of matchups that he feels comfortable in if he's going to take a risk like this, you know?
So here's the scary part, is you just said that he has the ability, the deck itself has the ability to get off, to get going much, much faster than it did right here. Yeah. And that was a pretty fast start to begin with. We saw three Beast Rings come out of nowhere, right? So how exactly does it get going much faster?
Well, that's the beauty of using your Dust Stone. You can get all these Pokemon evolved so quickly and start burning through your deck. You can get your opponent on a hand that's so low that they don't really get to play the game with you. And the fact that you're hitting for 180 or 210 can honestly be enough at that point if they're stuck on a 4-card hand and really didn't get to have any setup of a kind of turn.
So now if Danny can get going even faster, then we're just going to be seeing kind of fireworks happen. And especially with Danny's hand speed, that's
yeah.
It's a dangerous combination, Kyle.
This man moves quick. His deck moves quick. It's a way to quickly get to day 2.
The desk may melt away before we even get started this weekend. Hope we have a replacement back here somewhere. And we do see both players shoveling up. Remember, Danny does have to win 2 more games. 2 games in order to go 1-0 here in this first round. And Danny only needs 1 additional victory. With about 30 minutes left on the clock, seems to be favoring Danny quite a bit.
Yeah, this is a spot that Danny loves to be in. He played a decently sized first game, but his deck can play really fast. He could play a game that he could win in upwards of 10 minutes or so, just depending on how the prizes line up, if the Denes are available to be Great Catcher to knock out. So if he does happen to fall in this game 2, he could certainly take game 3.
All right, Mr. Analyst. Why would you be afraid coming into this tournament if you're using Danny's deck, if you're using Guzzlord? What exactly do you have to fear?
Well, there's a few things that work against you immediately. You're playing a deck that's completely focused around a tag team GX Pokemon, so anything that immediately combats that will probably hurt you. The fact that your damage output is limited to only 180 or potentially 210, that can be a number that doesn't get there at times.
So we're talking like maybe Keldeo, for example.
Yeah, there's certainly some things that you could run into that would just overrun you. Maybe you're playing against a deck that can blow up Ultra Beasts, and then you're just done for. So there's a lot of things that can hurt you when you go this consistent of a route, this focused on one certain aspect of Pokemon, but it gives you the consistency as well. So he just decided that outweighs everything else, and he'd rather just stay with a consistency build and have all these cards that work in tandem with each other.
So it's kind of like, you know, what people like to call kind of like a high roll deck in a sense, where if you just happen to get the right amount of luck, then this deck ends up being the best possible choice.
Yeah,
all you need to do is get the right pairings.
He's shown us that he's not afraid to take that chance as well. He did this in Knoxville when he won with his Mewtwo Perfection list. He had no answers to Keldeo back then as well. He really didn't have any answer to Guardian's pieces as
Sure.
well. Yeah, so there was like nothing that he could do against those, and he's just like, I'm just not going to play against those, and if I do play against them, I'll take the loss and I'll move on. But my other matchups are going to be so strong that it doesn't matter.
So we got to see the prizes come down here for Dene, and the first thing I saw was a Dene, and I was a little bit worried for him. However, the rest of his prizes ended up being all right, and more importantly, no welders in his prizes.
Yeah, I feel like this can be a completely different game if Dene is able to accelerate energies quickly and perhaps put that pressure on Danny. He really hasn't felt that yet, and maybe that just gives us a completely new game too here.
All right, these players are now setting up. We are about to begin game 2. Remember, Dene is down 1-0 against Danny Altavilla. Danny starting here with this Naganadel and Guzzlord. And on the other side, we see Dene starting with Dedenne. So we saw one Dedenne prize. We see the other one kind of being the active Pokemon, the starting Pokemon here for Dene. So that's not where you want to be if you're Dene.
Yeah, this is bad. He does not want to start with the Dene. Fortunately, it does only have that 1 retreat cost, so potentially you could work your way out of it. But having this Pokemon down is a pretty big liability, especially if you have to start playing others. It's just such an easy knockout for the Naganadel and Guzzlord.
I like how the first thing he's looking at is welder, making sure that there's multiple welders in there.
They do exist.
And you kind of have to feel bad for him, right? Like, you know, we got to see how, and it may not have been the ideal start for Danny, but it was pretty close. It was not bad.
It was good. It was absolutely good.
And we also got to see the other side of the coin. We got to see how, remember, this is the first round. This is a tournament that I'm sure that Danny has prepared, you know, countless hours for. And to start off the way that Game 1 did just cannot feel good. And you kind of have to, like, shrug that off. If you're Danny, if you're in his seat and you just had that abysmal Game 1, really what you want to do is kind of shake it off and forget about it and hope that Game 2 just goes a little bit better for you.
Yeah.
Now, starting with the Dene and
able to
Especially if finds another Dust Stone.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to be looking for the second piece there so that he can get himself into that Beast Ring mode. If he can get that turn 1 attack, he's going to feel very good.
So we got to see that order pad miss. But more importantly, you're absolutely right. If we get to see another Dust Stone, then this turn is just going to be the optimal turn, really. It's going to be exactly what the doctor ordered here for Mr. Altavilla.
Yeah.
And we do get to see 7 cards here come into Danny's hand. And there's a tag call. Finds him any 2 tag teams. Those could be supporters or Pokemon. Remember, that's the flexibility that tag call allows. And the first card found was going to be Cynthia and Caitlin for sure, but then the second one, really, that's the big question. And it looks like we're going to be seeing a Mallow.
Yeah, he's grabbed Mallow and Lana. He has an Acrobike in hand, so he wanted to thin these cards out of his deck before potentially accelerating for something else. Looks like he's going to change his mind and go grab the Naganadel and Guzzlord this time. If he does get access to multiple Beast Rings in the following, he'd certainly love to have that down just so that he could have those Pokemon to swap between. Doesn't really make much difference if you have that 120 and switch if you don't have a second Pokemon to get those energies and a new attacking into. Does find Order Pad. Yeah, that one's going to work this time for him. Could find another Dust Stone potentially if he wanted to really just get pushing. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and grab that Dust Stone.
All right. So remember, this Miss Mage is exactly what we wanted to see here. That Dust Stone is going to be huge here for him. That's going to be that second knockout potentially here for Danny Altavilla. Remember, this is the first turn of Danny's for Danny here in this second game, and we see that Guzzlord now. Now, the only thing missing is going to be the Beast Rings. Do we have them in hand?
I think he's trying to determine if he wants to thin down a little more, potentially.
Well, you absolutely want to, no?
Yeah, he could, if he gets access to a Lieutenant Surge, then he gets so many supporters this turn, and he can put himself in a fantastic spot.
What a crazy turn 1 this is. This is really exactly what Danny wants to
do.
do.
Can we revisit 3 minutes ago where you questioned if this deck could get faster? Because I think we're going to see it.
Yeah, no kidding. It seems like Danny heard me, and he's like, oh, let me show you something,
He
Pops.
said, listen up, old man. I've got some game for you.
Hey, Grandpa. All right, so there's that Miss May just coming down, and I believe it's going to draw him 4 cards.
Found Great Catcher. I don't know if that's going to help him too much here. Does find that Beast Ring.
There's that Beast Ring. 1 Beast Ring found, but 1 Beast Ring is much better than none, and that's going to be some much-needed energy coming down onto this Guzzlord. Now we see 3 energy on Guzzlord already, and this is the first turn of the game here for Danny. And remember, like, if you have the reset stamp, which I believe Danny does, then he's also going to be providing a little bit of disruption onto Danny as well. So now Danny kind of hoping that he gets to hang on to his hand. He's been able to get a couple more prizes out of his hand. His hand's gotten much healthier than it was at the end of his own turn. If he can hold on to them, which we know he can't, then he could do some damage. If not, then we're going to be seeing a lot of pressure coming out of Danny, and Danny's going to be forced to kind of answer there. And we saw Lieutenant Surge come down, which means we're going to be seeing 2 additional supporter cards.
Well,
this is not the end of Danny's turn by any means.
The ordering of this means that he can't play the Surge, but it's because he's already played the Bills.
Oh, he ended up playing the Bills for
Yeah,
sure.
he wanted to.
Right.
He was trying to go deeper and find the Surge first, but he wasn't able to get that, so had to settle for this play. But if you're going to settle for anything, taking a 3-prize knockout seems pretty okay.
So really, I mean, at this point, really, the only thing he was looking for more was Beast Rings. But he's plenty happy with the way this turn's working out for him. Yep. And there it is, that reset stamp.
His opponent has already played 2 Dedenne, so this 4-card hand is really going to be difficult to work around. We don't see a Giant Hearth, so maybe even a Welder top deck wouldn't be enough. You'd need the Fire Energy to go with it.
And here's the other problem is we know the other Dedenne is still prized.
I like this. He's actually going to go ahead and put the damage onto the Mew Mew. He wants to knock this Pokemon out for 4 prizes and then have access to his GX attack. He doesn't want to take a Dedenne prize. 3 is an awkward number for him. He doesn't really win the game with his GX attack. He still has to work through a Mew Mew, so might as well attack it now while your opponent's got 4 cards and only 2 energies.
So now Dene, does he have help from his hand?
Potentially.
There's a Pokegear
And,
potentially.
and a Giant Hearth as well.
Yeah, there's. I mean, there's really what you need more than anything. At this point, really, you're just hoping to find the right Pokemon in your discard pile. There is a Solgaleo, but
Charge up these to Dene. Get them ready.
yeah, there's a Solgaleo, but no Mewtwo and Mew in the discard pile or in the bench.
Yeah. I think that's one in hand.
Maybe.
Who knows?
It's kind of hard to tell right now, but we do see that Giant Hearth come down, and we do see 2 fire energies coming out of Dene's deck and being added to his hand. So that's gonna allow him to welder if he finds it through the Pokegear. That's gonna be one of the big questions that gets raised here in this on this turn. Will he finally find the welder that he needs? Remember, I believe he still has 3 left in the deck.
This is the scariest part about playing the perfection list is that you're using Pokegears trying to find welders, and the odds are generally not in your favor to find a welder, especially as soon as I use it. I know I'm never going to find it, but maybe Dene does have a little better luck here for him. He does have those energies ready to go.
It's the superpower. All right, so Pokegear, here it comes. Remember, look at the top 7. Find a welder. That's basically what the card says.
Does it?
Well, hope to find a welder anyway.
Oh, hey, look, it worked. You're right.
There's that welder.
You found 2 of them.
Pokegear, working the way it was intended to work when it was created. And that welder will find not only some energy for that Mewtwo and Mew, but also going to be finding 3 additional cards for Dene. Now, the question is, does he have a Mewtwo and Mew in his hand? That's really what he wants to start doing. If he has a Mewtwo and Mew in his hand, then he can play the welder onto that Mewtwo and Mew, and then use Solgaleo to power it up some more.
I think he's just looking for Charizard. If he finds Charizard, he takes the knockout. His opponent is out of Beast Ring range, and he can just win the game.
If he has the Charizard, yes, but he's got to find it. It looks like he's just going for the Mewtwo and Mew on the bench, so maybe he's not going for that play.
Yeah, he'd have to find it as well as discard it, which would be really difficult to do.
That might have been his best possible play, though, given the situation.
Yeah, I mean, if you knock out this Pokemon, what does Danny do?
It's over. Like he can't
single
be
energy
anymore.
attaching and steering at a Pokemon with 4 energies.
Yeah, that definitely would have been the way to handle that. However, he did not opt to go with that line of play, and that worked out for him because he would not have found the sequence of cards that he would have needed. So he went with the safe route. It's going to be an uphill battle for him to come back and win this game, but at the same time, he no longer had to kind of hope to just draw perfect off of that 3-card draw from Welder.
Absolutely 0 hindsight bias. I see. That's beautiful. Yeah, this is where Danny's gonna be able to flex. He's got Lieutenant Surge. He's gonna be able to use that Cynthia as well. So he's getting access to a ton of cards.
What a combination!
If he's able to find that Beast Ring, he doesn't have to worry about this Pokemon being knocked out because he'll have access to another Pokemon. Potentially Mallow and Lana as well.
And what's Cynthia and Caitlin find?
Couldn't tell. He actually played that real quick. Maybe it was the Bill.
Oh, yeah, it might have been Bill. That would make sense. And we see that other Mismage just hit play. We've seen him threaten to potentially use that in the past. Now, the truth is that there's still a lot of pressure on Danny, right? Like, there's a Mewtwo and Mew that is now fully powered up and has no damage on it. And he has no other energy in play besides the energy that he has on his active Guzzlord.
He did not find Beast Ring, but he does have Order Pad and Acrobike. The Beast Ring is exactly what he's looking for. He's even holding on to his Beast Bringer tool because he wants to be able to use that in combination with his other Naganadel and Guzzlord. He's played a lot of cards, but he hasn't really gotten anywhere.
Yeah, no kidding. So there's that Tails on the Order Pad again. Now an Acrobike. Does he find the Beast Ring?
He's got energy and a way to get energy back. This is not what he wants to see off Acrobike.
Does he have a Beast Bringer already in hand?
Yes, he does.
Okay, so the Beast Bringer is there at least.
He just doesn't feel comfortable with all that damage on the active Pokemon. He wanted to find a different way to go about this.
And he has not played his final supporter for the turn, right? So still has access
Well, I
to
think
Mallow?
he did. He did Surge Cynthia bill. So
Did he end up playing the bill?
Yes, he played the bill and grabbed the pad.
Okay. So there's no Mallow and Lana play available to him this turn.
Yeah, this is where it gets
kind of
interesting.
rough, yeah.
He has not been able to find what he wants. Do you get risky and play your Miss Mages?
I mean, because you don't have access to Mallow and Lana, maybe not.
Yeah, it's scary. I mean, I guess but as you know that if your opponent knocks out this Pokemon, you have no way to accelerate these energies. You're gonna get knocked out.
I guess it comes down to what kind of a deck list he has available to him. Like if he can reliably find a switch with his like Miss Mages, then just put some pressure on Dene to then have like a great catcher available to him, which after some reset stamping, potentially could just not be the case. I think that's potentially one way of going about it if you're going to be using the Miss Mages play. But really what you want to do is find the B-strings, and you're not finding those. So now that he's playing the B-springer, it seems that he's sealed his own fate in that sense.
This is going to be so slow. Yeah, I think he kind of sees it too. He's wondering, is this the right choice? I mean, if you do this play, I feel like you have to play the B-stringer on the bench Pokemon so that you can grab the B-string and then retreat, and then you have a Pokemon out, and then you just hope your opponent doesn't have access to a great catcher.
That just makes you find multiple B-strings on the following turn?
Well, you only need the one B-string on a Pokemon that's undamaged. So, like this Pokemon, if the bench Pokemon had the B-springer...
Oh, well, there's that B-string, by the way.
He drew into another B-springer, so he's not going to get punished if he does choose to retreat here.
So that ended up being really huge for him, by the way. Finding that B-string... because he found another one, and that reset stamp just so crucial card here it played, as now you're shuffling your hand back into your opponent's hand back into his deck, and remember he's now going to be forced to find something like a great catcher in order to steal this game, and Danny hoping that doesn't happen, as with this potential play, you only give Danny a couple of turns to seal a victory.
Yeah, so options that Dene has available to him, if he's able to draw into perhaps having that Naganadel GX into his discard pile along with the Psychic Energy, he'd be able to snipe, knock out that Naganadel and Guzzlord. That's such a weird combination of Pokemon to say. He does have 2 Tag Call along with Pokegear. He can really thin out his deck if he wanted to. Found the Naganadel as well.
There is a huge Naganadel GX.
Yeah, this is big.
So how do you power it up?
He can get it into the discard pile by any tag supporter, just discarding it, but he needs to find the Psychic Energy to go along with it. He has access to Giant Hearth. Maybe
has not played a supporter this turn, right? Yeah, of course not.
Yeah, so he has Giant Hearth as well as a way to discard it and could get multiple energies that way. Could really just thin out all the way and get himself into a welder for the draw. I don't know what the best draw supporter would be for him to find that Psychic Energy. But he's pretty much down to that out potentially.
And how many Psychic Energies are left? 2, maybe? I'm not seeing any yet.
Yeah, he had 1 on the active Pokemon
one
that was knocked out, so maybe finding this would be very difficult.
I see 1 Psychic Energy in the deck so far, but his list seems to have quite a few. Or maybe not. No, looks like there's only 2.
Yep, so he's got 2,
there's
so he's
left.
got access to 1.
All right, so, I mean, he's got the play available to him. That Naganadel was huge to find, but then there's no Psychic Energy in play. Gonna have to find it. Looks like going for a Guzma play.
I mean, even finding Charizard in a way to discard it would be a way to take the victory here.
How? There's no Energy Spinner? No, of course not.
Oh, he's got the forest. Okay, so that will be able to.
Oh, okay, so for idiot, yeah,
He he just has it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Danny figures it out. Danny said, all right, I have 7 minutes to win a game. We got to go.
That Viridian Force was huge. Remember, that allows him to find the psychic energy that he needs from his deck, and that's going to allow him to use Perfection to take the knockout onto the bench Guzzlord. That was a play that Danny was hoping wouldn't come out of Perfection, but he seemed like he had his back against the wall, was forced to use that third Mismagius, which meant only a single tag team knockout was going to seal the win for Dene here. And it was kind of a calculated risk, but still a risk he had to take nonetheless, and Dene takes full advantage of it. And we're now going to Game 3 with single-digit minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, and I have to feel that game would have been completely different if Danny was able to find that second B string.
Of course.
That was the only reason that he had to play that aggressively.
Absolutely. So
Danny telling Allsworth, I won Game 1.
So here's the other thing, too, is if there's any deck that can still pull off a victory with so little time left on the
100%.
clock, it's going to be
this is exactly this. Yeah, like everyone else would be terrified to play a game with 7 minutes, but this is where Danny plays. Like he's one of the fastest players
in the history of the game.
Hand speed. He's playing a very fast deck. He could easily run over Dene here if he finds the right cards. He doesn't have to go nearly as aggressive on this opening turn as well. Could just not find the Dust Stones and be in a completely favorable spot. Just really depends how his hand pans out for him.
Danny has slowed down in his old age now, but he's still maybe the fastest player left in the game at the moment. He's just it's pretty astonishing to watch when you really get to see him in full force. Especially, I remember seeing him play Pidgeotto multiple times. I could have sworn he airmailed once, but before I knew it, there were 4. Blink and you miss it.
Yep.
That's Danny's motto. Now, of course, remember, despite having a fast deck and having very, very fast hands, at the end of the day, he's still not feeling very comfortable with the amount of time left on the clock. And remember, despite there being additional turns available to them and whatnot, it's just, I think that the most likely scenario we're seeing here is a draw, but I would not be surprised to see either of these players win, to be perfectly honest with you. But more importantly, I think that this favors Danny quite a bit.
Yeah, this is the worst time to have a mulligan as well. He needs every second that he can get here.
Right. And he will get to go first, will Danny, because, you get to choose whether you're going to go first or second. And I think you still choose to go first, right? Like, despite having the fact that
he 100% chose to go first. You can still honestly have that a very amazing turn 1 using the Dust Stones, just going in aggressively.
Yeah, you just can't deal damage.
Yeah, you can get all the B strings going. You can put your hand on your opponent on a reset stamp 4 on the first turn if you really get it off. But how much time is he going to have? You can feel it, the intensity. Desperately searching for any Pokemon to start this
Pokemon
game.
Again. Remember, actually, his deck is a little low on Pokemon, too. Like, this is not the most surprising thing, but now that we're looking at under 4 minutes left on the clock, you have to believe that the window's almost closed.
Yeah, this is when it gets scary. I mean, how long does it take to complete all the inputs to get your first turn finished? Probably at least 2 minutes.
And realistically, like, Dene could definitely extend the game if he really needs to. This is not something that it's not like Perfection runs out of GX Pokemon with high HP, right?
Right.
I think if there's one thing that that Dene's deck has is a lot of hit points. All right, so some prizes now coming down for both players. Remember, they are about to shuffle up. Well, they're about to deal out their starting hands and get this Game 3 underway with about 3 minutes left on the clock.
All right.
The likely scenario here is going to be a draw as they have split the first 2 games.
Fastest hands in the West has to pass.
Fastest hands in the West does indeed have to pass it now. Dene looking at the potential for a win on the first turn. Can he find it?
He's got Cherish Ball, he's got 2 energies, and he's got a Giant Hearth. He's got access to Solgaleo for the game.
Needs a Welder, though.
He's got Welder in hand. He's Cherish Ball Solgaleo. This game's over.
All right, well, there's that Giant Hearth. Will he make the play? There's a Cherish Ball.
This is – wow.
All right, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Will he make the play?
I'm ahead of myself.
So there is still a Cherish – the Cherish Ball will be able to find him. Ideally, the Solgaleo.
That's it.
And there it is. There's that Solgaleo. So now Giant Hearth will be able to discard it if he chooses to. And if you have the Welder and a
If
couple
he
of fires,
chooses to.
I said what I said, and I meant it. All right, there's that Cherish Ball finding that Solgaleo. Solgaleo, oh, I thought he was going to bench it. I was really afraid.
That wouldn't work. Oh, man.
All right.
Danny's like, all right, just show me it. Yeah,
There's
that's
that
it.
Welder.
That's the game.
All right, wow. So we said at the beginning of this game that it could end before time was up. We did not mince our words.
Oh, my goodness.
The thumbs up from Danny, of course, being a great sport about it. Yeah, so let's take a step back. Let's kind of reset here for a second, all right? We expected this Game 3 to potentially have fireworks. We expected for Danny to potentially just kind of go off with the limited amount of time he had left. We know that his deck is capable of it. We know that there's definitely a chance that we'll just see 5 energy in play from